So does that come up? Oops. Is that up on the screen?
Yeah, Sarah Stevens, perfect.
So, okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity of being able to talk to you all today. Obviously can't see everybody who's in the room, but just quickly I'm going to go over a little bit about who we are and what we do. Some samples of some of the projects we are undertaking at the moment, some on site, some we've recently completed, the kind of experience that we can provide to building surveying graduates, talk a little bit about the route to getting chartered and becoming chartered building surveyors, and then just a little bit about the sort of placement program that we've been talking to Elaine and Anthony there at DkIT. So essentially, we were established in 2012. I've been based in Ireland since 1997. Originally started work with Lisney and then worked as the managing director for a company called Watts as part of the Watts Group, who opened their office in Dublin. They closed their offices in around 2011, just with the sort of financial crash at the time. And from that, then Alan Murphy and myself, and Alan's an ex Dundalk graduate as well, we set up Scott Murphy in 2012. So we're based in the city centre in Dublin. Our office is on Dame Street, right in the middle of the city. So there's 2 directors and there's 7 surveyors, chartered surveyors, including 1 graduate who is on the verge of just doing their APC shortly, hence the reason why we are looking to recruit new graduate members to come in now and start that process again. So we provide the full range of building surveying services. We've got an excellent client base, and I'll give you some examples of those and some of the sectors that we work in. So who we act for, we deal with pension funds, managing agents in terms of the general practice surveyors. So we would act for the management departments of a number of the city centre agents, such as Bannon's. We do a little bit with Jones Lang, even though they've got their own in-house people, we do a little bit with them. We act for a number of high street retailers and well-known brands. I'll come on to that. Commercial occupiers, we get to do a lot of work for either office occupiers. We're doing stuff with AXA Insurance now down in Shannon. I've got a project on with the Gowan Group, which I'll talk about here in Dublin. Housing associations, we've 3 or 4 housing associations that we work for, so we're involved in some social and affordable housing type projects. Institutional investors, private investors and private funds buying and acquiring or selling properties. Banks and state bodies, we've acted for the likes of NAMA and NTMA, the public funding body. So we work in the different sectors. So the hotel sector, which I'm going to touch on, we've got a lot of work on at the moment with residential apartment blocks, which is quite a big feature at the moment, and I'm sure you're going to be hearing quite a bit of that in the press shortly, to do with the way that the government are looking at some sort of redress fund for apartment owners who've been affected by fire and water ingress, and building surveyors are really at the sort of fore of that. High street retail, we've done quite a number of big, large industrial units and refurbishment repair projects. We've been involved with some education stuff, schools and advice to education boards, and leisure as well. We've a number of cinema projects as well. So a really broad base and a really good range of sectors that we're involved with. So we call ourselves really the specialists behind the stories. If there's generally been stories in the press to do with defects, certainly in apartment complexes or legal disputes, invariably it's ourselves that have been involved in the preparation of the reporting for management companies and in preparation of legal cases and giving expert evidence, etc. So that's just one of our ads that we would have had in the journal, which just lists the other services that we provide as well. And by way of example, just a couple of extracts from some of the headlines for some of the developments that we've been involved with. The one on the left is down in Shannon, which I'll come on to. On the right, that's the Beacon South Quarter, where we've had quite extensive involvement over the last number of years, and there's a major project pending at that development. We undertake obviously building surveys. It's the sort of bread and butter stuff, and we provide the full range of building surveying services and what we call technical due diligence for prospective purchasers of a whole range of property types. We also get involved in what are called vendor surveys, where the seller agrees to do the report for a range, to put that then in a data room. And then ultimately the purchaser of the building will acquire the rights to our report by way of a sort of legal process where we hand that over. We engage various specialists, from cladding specialists to material scientists, fire consultants, anyone that we feel that's needed on a particular acquisition, arranging the roof access, specialist access and hoists for the surveyors to use during the survey. And we use building software for our surveys. So we use a system called Go Report, which is everybody has iPads, and we use those for the collection of the data and the photographs, and for ultimately the production of the reports. And all of the services that we offer, be it dilapidations or scheduled condition or snag lists, we have templates that are all set up in software for the surveyors to utilize. Just moving on to the projects side of things, we perform the full range of building surveying services on those. So from the initial building survey, invariably, where we'll identify what needs to be done, we'll provide cost advice to the client on what potential costs they will incur in completing the project. We give advice on the statutory matters, and in most occasions we would complete the statutory applications in respect of fire safety certificates, planning applications, or DAC, disability access certificates. Depending on the complexity of the project, if they're quite complex, we would then bring in that expertise and bring in planning experts and fire consultants to work with us on that. So we perform the design role, which is very much one of the role that the graduate would assist with, obviously with input with their senior colleagues. So there's a CAD capability that we're looking for, and then there's the full range of project management services as well, from sort of inception through to completion. And then alongside that, we would administer the construction contract. So we have a good grounding in all of the typical and standard forms of contract, and we implement those through to completion. So just some examples. This is a building nearly 200,000 square feet up near Dublin Airport that we would have surveyed initially for iPort, who are a large institutional or one of the largest institutional investors, and we would have identified a series of problems and repair for the repair and refurbishment project. This particular building was unfortunate to have pyrite in the floor slab, which all had to be dealt with. We also looked after the office fit outside, approximately €5 million in terms of value, just to give you a sense of the scale of the project. We would have dealt with all the landlord and tenant matters to do with the existing tenant that was in the building prior to them leaving, and then we would have dealt with all the issues for the new occupier coming in. So we get involved with the solicitors and leases and schedules of condition, etc. And we dealt with all the statutory applications there. So just some photographs. There's the floor slab inside that all had to come out. The building was only 10 years old, and the entire slab had to come out because of the presence of pyrite under the slab, which was causing the warehouse slab to bulge and crack, which is pyrite's been a big issue, as you may know, and certainly to the residential end of things, but it's also affecting commercial, which is quite underreported. but it is a big issue. That would have also involved getting specialists there to make sure that the floor slab was to the right tolerances in terms of level, etc., and get the full finished slab laser surveyed and on completion to make sure that we had the right tolerances on the finished development. And that's what it looked like when it was finished. So brand new slab, new unit, redecorated, new lighting, new energy efficient systems, and just the office refurbishment. So again, we would have handled that whole process from start to finish, and the subsequent letting of that premises. We're currently undertaking work for the Gowan Group, who are one of Ireland's largest motor distributors. They're moving or amalgamating a number of properties into a single unit in City West. Again, we did the initial survey. We're managing the repair and refurbishment of that. This is around 10 million euros in value. Again, looking at the landlord and tenant issues and dealing with all the statutory applications. And just to give you a sense, that's the before picture. It was occupied by a company that made lifting equipment. So our job we've involved was to manage the stripping out and specification of all of this work as well. So and all the statutory issues. There's a change of use application. There's a new fire cert. So that was before. That's what it looks like today. And I've also then just got some slide graphics that just show you some of the process of the work involved, just to sort of during the works, and afterwards we set up a special camera so we could just record this. And that's the adjoining warehouse, just to give you a sense of the sort of size and scale. So this project is currently still underway. It's we're on site now for the next stage, which will form a new showroom and academy for the Gowan Group. On the residential side of things, and a really big part of our work has been to do with residential developments that have suffered from fire defects and water ingress. This is the Beacon South Quarter. So again, we did the initial surveys of these blocks through every apartment, recording all the defects in the context of a large insurance claim. We did extensive opening up, nearly €250,000 worth of investigations. We've had cladding specialists, say material scientists there involved for this claim under the what was called the Premier Guarantee Scheme. And this is currently, was tendered last year at about 25 million, and we're just awaiting settlement from the insurance company, and that project will then get underway, and it'll be a 2-year project which will hopefully start sort of towards the back end of this year. But that's been a really intensive and interesting project. Just to give you some flavour of that kind of work, this is one of the typical balconies at the Beacon South Quarter, and this building was only constructed in 2006, but you can see the impact that the water ingress has had on the steel which is supporting the balconies, and also these glazed cubes. It's been a mess in terms of what's happened. The water's got in, the insulation has got saturated, the steel wasn't properly galvanized, given its coastal location, and as a result, we've just had this severe corrosion of the steelwork throughout. So there's a major project there that's required to address that. We have done some preliminary test case work to sort of what it should be like. So we've undertaken all of these specification and this repair as a sample, and that then has formed the basis for the whole tender process. So that's been quite an interesting and it's been a long-standing project, but it's certainly coming to fruition now. So we're involved. Another development down in South Dublin. I think I came in and gave a talk on this one to some of the students at Parkview. This is a pod construction that was used to create these apartments in 6 blocks. There's over 300 apartments in the scheme. So we've done the initial survey and opening up, all the review of the fire certs and the fire safety certificates. It's involved specialist testing with the building research establishment. We've encountered some deleterious materials in the form of magnesium oxide board, which is a current sort of hot topic within sort of construction, certainly building surveying. There's issues in the UK where the NHBC are no longer covering developments that have magnesium oxide boards because of the problems when it gets wet, and we've just encountered this in this particular development. So that again is quite a major remediation project of around 15 million that's planned for that development. And we would have got involved in the initial survey. This is just some of the fire stopping or lack of in the development. The photographs are of ceiling voids. This is the red steel frame of one of the pod constructions. So you can see it was a lightweight steel arrangement, almost like a series of shipping containers all sort of stacked on top, all with fully fitted apartments. But then above them in the gaps, we found everywhere fire stopping problems that just wasn't completed properly. So that is again quite a major piece of work, which, as I say, involved going to the building research establishment. So this is a test apartment that was constructed to mirror a typical apartment. You can see it's same size as the pods. There's a kitchen extract just to give a bit more flavour to the realism of the pod, and then essentially they start the fire inside and see how it was it was going to react. We had to mirror the exact construction to try and get the fire officer to agree to the solution, the repair solution that's now required because it is this complicated pod arrangement. So, but we were involved in all of that. Again, a really interesting project. The water ingress at that development is causing problems like you can see on the right, and this magnesium oxide board is the lining board to the steel frame. And what we're finding is that because of the high chloride content in the magnesium oxide boards, that the fixings are corroding to nothing. They're corroding to powder, and as a result, then the structural integrity of the pod is kind of has been called into question. And so we could have quite extensive further opening up works. But this, I think, is the first development in Ireland where this magnesium oxide problem has arisen. There's a huge cases in Denmark, was the first country to experience it. But there's not too many developments constructed with this form of construction here in Ireland, but this is certainly one of them, and we think it's probably the first. So again, we've been heavily involved in the research and testing and lab testing of all of that. This is the Moore Street development in O'Connell Street. So there's the old Carlton Cinema on O'Connell Street. So we got involved here by the development company who've acquired this large site to get involved in condition surveys. We had to put together a spec for the enabling works, and for the design team coordinate the various archaeological digs, and that's an ongoing process. So the value of this is currently unknown, but it's going to be in that's certainly the tens of millions by the time it's finished. But it involved looking at dangerous structures and doing sort of surveys, whether it was safe to go in. We had to do all the risk assessments of those. And during the course of this investigations, this is all around the GPO and obviously the historic context for that, we came across evidence of tunnelling from the 1916 volunteers. So we got to get involved with, again, the archaeological people to get all this recorded and the like. So again, this stuff just gets thrown up sort of out of the blue, but this is what makes the job a bit interesting as well. We are involved with Brúna Seanna down in Shannon. That was one of the newspaper headlines there. So again, it's fire remediation works that we've been involved with. So the before and after, sort of top and bottom, just to show you the kind of defects that we'd be identifying and that we've had to address. Different sort of fire stopping treatment. So we're getting into ceilings and floor voids and assessing where the defects are, and that process is still underway as part of a phased replacement. We're involved down at the Ivy Exchange, which is on Parnell Street in the centre of Dublin. This is one that's also currently in the press. You can see that's just the 1st of August last year. Currently, the management company is suing the developers. A bill there, you can see 9 million euros, but we would have prepared that report and the submission to the management company, which in turn has been presented to the courts and has just resulted in, I think, the successful outcome that I think we're going to get the original developers, who are Cosgraves, to come back and address that. But during the course of this, we would have done opening up of round door frames to expose lack of fire stopping. Again, in ceiling voids, we get into those locations. We had to send the basement soffit insulation and the insulation to the external cladding away to the UK to specialist labs to do combustibility tests, and both of those failed. So we've got combustible material in the basement and in the cladding, and on foot of Grenfell, the issue of insulation and particularly cladding is a really hot topic, and is causing all sorts of problems with the PI insurance market. But this is a case in point where we've got 2 panels that have been made in the factory, and they've sandwiched this insulation material, but that is actually a flammable product that's been affixed to the building. So that's going to be quite, again, a significant project that we've got coming up now in the next year or 2. We do development monitoring. I mentioned about the hotel sector, so we act for one of the Stay City group. We perform monthly inspections to ensure compliance with standards and brands, etc. So we're involved from start to finish and on their hotel projects. So this is just another one in Townsend Street. Just again, fire stopping. It's a big issue, and particularly in the hotels. This is one in a city centre hotel, which is just nearing completion. We travel. We get across to the UK for that particular client, and we monitor their work in the hotels in the UK. We have on occasion gone to their hotels in Germany and France as well. So we do. There are occasions when we have to travel, less so the last couple of years with COVID, but that's slowly coming back. So that's just a development there in the centre of London. And it's a new rooftop extension to a building and hotel rooms below that. In terms of retailers, I mentioned that we deal with a number of high street well-known names and brands. So I think there's one there for we look after the Calvin Klein brand for the PVH group, who own the various brands, and we deal with project management of their retail fit outs. So we coordinate a European team of designers and interior specialists. It could be based in Spain or in Amsterdam, and we coordinate all of that to make sure that they meet Irish regulations, comply with Irish standards. So we act as the assigned certifier under the new BCAR legislation. That particular job, maybe 700,000 in value, but we've been monitoring that right the way through to completion and store opening, and serious time demands there for getting those stores open on time and ensuring everything's compliant. So that's quite a high pressure situation, but we've been through that a number of times. We also then deal with the Tommy brand for that particular group as well. So again, we deal with all of their coordination and fit out, right the way through to the clothes being delivered in to the stores, and that be so in all the big shopping centres, Liffey Valley, Blanchardstown, down in Cork, Kildare Village. We're involved in all of those centres and deal with all the landlord and tenant issues. So again, really interesting projects, and it's the ex Dundalk graduates, who all left Dundalk, I would guess, in the last 4 or 5 years, that are dealing with all of these now on a day-to-day basis. Just 2 others, again, Bazaar and the Bershka brand. Again, we look after their store refits on a similar basis under the BCAR, and so I think that's actually the pavilions in Swords. on the left, and I think that probably is Berkshire. That's probably Blanchardstown, I think, on the right. But again, just to give you a flavour of those. So in terms of what we are offering, we've are either graduate placement positions, and I believe that there are a number of people here who are either going through the postgrad course or are actually on the 3rd or 4th year of the degree. We're offering 12-week blocks, I understand, in conjunction with the course, and we've been speaking to Elaine there at Dundalk about that. Or alternatively, we've positions for full-time graduate on what we call sort of 2-year training contracts, where basically we undertake to put the graduates through the 2-year APC training for the chartered status with the Society of Chartered Surveyors. So at the moment, we are looking for people, and the feeling is that if we can attract any of you guys onto the placement position, it gives us an opportunity to assess you during those 12 weeks, with a view then certainly to offering a full-time position when you finish the course, and that's the intention. So we're sort of looking a little bit earlier in the process, and we accept that in coming in on the graduate placement position, that in terms of knowledge and experience, that it's obviously would be relatively low, but we sort of embrace the training ethos. You'll be allocated a mentor who would assist you during that period, and you'd be accompanying them on surveys, attending meetings, and sending site meetings, etc. During that 12 weeks. So we think we could, deliver a really quite intensive 12-week training period for the right people. So the placements would be paid for the 12 weeks, certainly commensurate with a new graduate. So we would just correlate the graduate salaries into the 12-week placement. We cover all job-related expenses, mileage, etc. We accept that people have got to travel to and from projects. And at the end of that 12-week period, we've no issue if we feel we've got the right people in starting to facilitate the SCSI student membership. And again, we fund that, and we would look to start that 2-year training process as soon as we can. In terms of the full-time graduate position, we say we provide what we call a 2-year training contract, which essentially leads to the full employment contract, but it just ring fences the 2-year training period. But essentially, it's to get you through 2 years of training and mentoring, so that you get the full exposure to all of the different disciplines that you would be required to address as part of your assessment of professional competence, on the basis that you're going to be working through to getting chartered status. And all of our team have gone through the process with ourselves, and have slowly, their careers have progressed to the manner that I've explained to you, and the projects that they're all certainly dealing with at the moment. So we're looking for self-motivated individuals. We say a willingness to learn and develop. Every day in this job is you're learning something new, whether it's in a particular specialist area or building science, building material, construction technology, contracts. It's the whole range of stuff, and it kind of demands, I think, being a building surveyor demands a kind of practical and methodical approach to problem solving, approach to tasks. You can see the sort of investigations that we have to do. They have to be done in a logical and sequential manner. Most of the projects are all done in a logical, sequential manner, and again, so it's that methodical approach. There is a requirement for good verbal and written skills. We produce reports. We produce reports for the courts. We, have to communicate with clients. Obviously, email is the main media at the moment, but we do. There's letter writing. There's report writing, and it does demand a good level of verbal and written skills. But again, we deal with that in the training. Basic IT skills is obviously a must, and most people have that. And we also look there for the graduate to have sort of AutoCAD skills as well. And we accept there's different varying abilities. And ideally, we'd like people with good AutoCAD skills, but I know that's a fundamental of the course there in Dundalk. And generally, the standard that we get in terms of the people we've had before have always been very good. So, is it for you? I think if you've chosen building surveying as your career, I think you've selected an excellent career path for yourselves. As you can see from just some of the sample, we could have put up many more, that it's an interesting and varied workload. And literally, it might sound cliched, but there are really no 2 days that are the same. Good experience across a range of sectors. I think for the experienced people, an excellent sort of salary in comparison to other disciplines, and just sort of indicated a sort of range there for the sort of chartered guys, and based on age and varying experience, but it's certainly in the 50 to 70k mark for good experienced guys. Excellent career progression. Not everybody has stayed with us. Certainly during the recession, we lost a few people, but because of the grounding that they'd had, I can honestly say that there's not one person that's ever been out of work for any length of time. This is a really good career path, and there's lots of opportunities. So we're recruiting, as I've said. We're looking for CVs for either the placement or the permanent position, and that concludes the presentation. I hope that was helpful and insightful. Was that okay?
Perfect, Stephen. Thanks a million. I'm sure that maybe the guys are just coming back in from the class call. So it was really good, really good. There's Catherine now. Perfect.
Anthony, I might ask you to facilitate the Q&A because there's an echo here in the room with the PC on and the laptop. Thank you.
No worries at all. Stephen, brilliant. Yeah, so the first thing is a massive thank you, and thank you for all your support of DkIT students and graduates over the years. As Catherine said, there's a long-standing relationship. In relation to the placement roles, Elaine is managing that process, I know. In relation to the graduate level roles, which I know numbers of the people here will be interested in, there currently isn't a job up on Careers Connect, as you know, where we put those positions up, but I have an old one, which I'll forward to you if you want to have a look at it, and then I'll upload that for maybe tomorrow, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think the last one may have just expired. I think we were just talking to you about getting that reissued again, so that's fine.
So I'll just reissue that, and they have your contact details anyway there. So I'm going to open up to questions. If anybody has any at this stage, I have a couple. Is there anybody in the room, Elaine or Catherine, that has a question just at this point? Oh, Elaine is typing in, so give me 1 second. And if any of the students on board have a question, please don't. Placement suitable for postgrad roles. She's still typing. Must be a really bad echo.
So just some questions here around how long does it take for the APC generally, sir, to complete, Stephen?
Okay, well, it's a defined 2-year period. The SCSI expect the candidates to have completed 2 years post-qualification experience and relevant experience. So it is actually there's a 24-month logbook that has to be completed with all your relevant experience. You've got to, at the end of that 2 years, deliver a critical analysis on a project and experience that you've had. You then have to present that to an assessment panel of 3 surveyors. I act for SCSI as a chair and an assessor of the panels, so we've good experience in that process. We assist the graduates by conducting mock interviews in advance, and we oversee that process. And really, it's down to the individuals. What we find, Catherine, is that some get through the 2 years and just sort of get stuck into it, and some it takes a little bit longer. And at the end of that process, we normally sit down with people and say, look, we think you might benefit from another 6 months of training, or another year, or but ultimately everybody gets to sit it. 2 years is the minimum process to get chartered, but it, in some cases it might take 2.5 years. We've had some guys it's taken 3, but ultimately they've got there in the end. But it's that's down to the individuals and their ability, and just how much they throw themselves into it.
Brilliant. A couple more coming in. Currently, how many are working in the team in the Dublin office?
So there's 7 of us in total.
Okay.
And so that includes a graduate, again, ex-Dundalk, who is due to sit his APC in May, I believe, this year. So really, we have a need now to bring in another couple of graduates at that level, just to start providing support to some of the senior people. And the sort of projects that just outlined in the presentation are what is coming up, and what we've got ahead of us. And we, that they will be excellent projects for people to get that relevant experience, to get yourself chartered, and hopefully start on your way to a career in building surveying.
Question from Fiona. Thanks so much, Stephen. Is it only surveyors you employ, or do you employ construction managers, architectural technologists? What other roles are you currently sort of sourcing?
It's primarily building surveyors. I suppose of late we've started certainly to look at engaging with architectural technologists, and I suppose we've come close to engaging 1 or 2, but they're not that familiar with the role of the building surveyor and where they kind of fit in. And I suppose what we found was that when it sort of came to sort of crunch time, they lent more back to the architectural office. Although we feel that for the right technologists, we can certainly fulfill their requirements and allow them to progress their careers. But it's just so we don't rule out architectural technologists. We've tried to engage some, but obviously our preference is the building surveyors, but we don't close ourselves down to others. In terms of construction managers, we haven't really gone down that route at this stage. Again, we occasionally get applications from QSs and stuff, but we just don't have that core of work to keep those sort of disciplines involved at this stage.
Brilliant. A question from the students here: Are so the people in the Dublin office, I think this relates to, are they all chartered surveyors, excluding the students?
They are, yes,
Yeah.
They are, and they've all chartered at different times. I think they've all come through Dundalk. Some then went off and got jobs in other companies on leaving Dundalk, but then eventually they've ended up with ourselves because they perhaps weren't getting the relevant experience where they'd gone to. One of the guys went to a managing agent, and so he was working as a property manager with his building surveying background, but just wasn't getting the depth of knowledge to get him through his APC. So he had a year's experience, but it wasn't perhaps relevant experience. So his 2 years essentially started when he joined us. We had another guy went off to a materials specialist, and again, he wasn't just really getting the broad scope of experience. So he joined us, but again, within 2 years, because they've got a year's work under their belt, they just tend to get through in the 2 years because they've just had that initial grounding, if you like, in just working in an office in a commercial sectors.
Perfect. Outside of the APCs, then, what sort of CPD development opportunities are with the organisation, with the company, and what further training do you offer? What do people who completed the chartership go on to do then from a CPD perspective?
Okay, well, in terms of CPD and continual professional development, we're all obliged as members of the SCSI to complete certainly 20 hours CPD annually, and that applies to all of our staff. And the SCSI are actively monitoring that and constantly reminding people of that. So we have an arrangement where all of our either graduates and chartered surveyors are all encouraged to attend regular CPD that's held by the Society of Chartered Surveyors, but we also encourage attendance at daily workshops or afternoon workshops that might be given by a particular manufacturer, Gyprock, for example, or that they do a lot of quite intensive training on plasterboard partition systems and fire rated partitions and so on. We attend RICS events. We attend the Dilapidations Forum for the RICS. So there's a real encouragement for all staff to continually update their experience and knowledge. And as I say, it's a requirement that we have to do, and we fund that as well. We pay for courses, we pay for attendance at relevant CPD events.
Brilliant. A question on the placement roles, and are they mostly on site or in office, or is it a combination of both?
COVID has changed everything. And I'm sure that's for a lot of practices. Nearly all of the staff are working remotely with a small presence in the office. We feel that the student, graduate or placement positions need to be in the office and around the office, not necessarily 5 days a week, but certainly for a lot of the time. As I mentioned in the presentation, we would see the either the placement position or the graduate positions being accompanying the chartered surveyors on their daily and weekly workload. So there'd be a lot of interaction with individuals, but we would then see the surveyors almost coming back to the office to facilitate the graduate and placements, because this is not a job you could do and learn from remotely. I think you've actually got to be out and about on the surveys, at the site meetings, on the projects, and so we could map out the 12-week period with various appointments, and so there'd be a mix of on-site and in the office, and a little bit from home. We'd facilitate that in terms of making sure they had all the right equipment and software, etc., to allow Teams calls and stuff with colleagues. But you can't beat being in the office and just listening to what's happening and understanding what's going on.
Perfect. Another question from Antoinette, working with one of our colleagues. Recent reports which show a demand for building surveyors and a shortage of graduates. Will this demand continue to grow, in your opinion?
In a nutshell, yes. I just, interested this morning, just got through, I think the Society of Chartered Surveyors had commissioned a report by PwC or KPMG or one of the big advisory consultants. And we are back to, I hate to say it, but kind of Celtic Tiger type levels in terms of construction output and labour shortages and demand for places. But what was interesting was, I think they said they did a similar question at the beginning of 2020 when most people didn't expect to recruit. I think there'd been a fall off of something like 40 or 50%, whereas actually that's now swung to a sort of an 80-90% requirement for new people. So there is huge demand out there, and I think it will continue. And the one thing about building surveying is that it's recession proof. we've just found over the years, and having gone through 2 or 3 cycles of sort of growth, and been on the receiving end of recessions, we've never been not busy. It's just the work that we do, because it involves property and assets and transactions in the good times and the bad, that goes on, and buildings have to be repaired, maintained, and so anyway, and as to the original question, yes, I think there is huge demand, and it will continue.
Perfect. Just conscious of time and your time, especially Stephen. I know you're probably going to get a sandwich and a cup of coffee. So massive thank you to everybody. I'll hand it over to Catherine just to finish off, but a massive thank you from myself, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Great to get that insight to really showcase the partnership between DkIT and that talent pool which you've established over the years, and I suppose really what we're looking for out of today is for students to be more aware of the company, Scott Murphy, and to see the placement and graduate opportunities, and to reach out and make those applications via Elaine from
Absolutely.
A placement perspective, and then from ourselves in careers and employability from those graduate opportunities. So thanks again for all your support.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody today. It's much appreciated, Catherine.
Okay, take care.
Okay, and good luck, everybody. Thanks very much. Take care now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.